Welcome everyone today to Simon Says Home Assistant live stream. We've got a whole lot of guests on board today. Just to introduce everyone that we've got here, we've got Travis from DigiBlur. We've got Michaeline from Michaeline. We've got Trevor from Apollo Automation. And that's our crew at the moment. We might have some more people joining in as we go, but welcome everyone to the live stream. Feel free, make any comments in the chat. The group here today, we're all about the future of smart homes, specifically around Home Assistant, because all of us are pretty focused on Home Assistant. So what we're going to be talking about is, first of all, having a bit of a round robin with the team, just asking what was your favorite smart home device from 2024? And then we're going to have a look at some topics around the future. So what sort of things would you like to see being released in 2025? What do you think AI is going to offer us in 2025? And what is your favorite hardware that you're going to be running on for Home Assistant in 2025? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to hand it over to, there we go. Brad's just joined us from Future Proof Smart Homes. Welcome, Brad. Awesome stuff. Yep, Brad's doing some great stuff there. He's just released his Satellite One. So yeah, welcome everyone. And we're going to kick it off. I'm going to kick it off with Michael. If you want to just introduce yourself and then tell us what was your favorite smart home device for 2024.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Michael Lean here. So the content that I produce focuses on how you can use tech for a smarter, more productive home with a strong emphasis on home assistance. Looking back at last year, I probably have to pick something that I feel pressure with Apollo Automation being here on what device I pick. But looking back at last year, honestly, I would say these Zigbee under cabinet lights. We've been wanting to automate our under cabinet lights in our kitchen for 5 years, and to finally get around to doing that, it's just something that we benefit from every day now. So yeah, glad to finally do the project of installing the Zigbee under cabinet lights.
Oh, legend, legend.
Cool.
Thank you very much. And welcome to Johnny. He's one of my regular streaming listeners. He's always on board. And we've also got Ramon. So welcome, guys. Next up, we're going to switch over to Brad from Future Proof Homes. If you can just tell us a little bit about that awesome hardware that you've just released, Brad. And then I'm assuming your favorite device for 2024 would be Satellite One.
I will try not to bias myself. I do have some ideas of favorite devices, but firstly, awesome to meet you guys, and thanks, Simon, for having me here. I watch all your guys' content, so it's really cool to be here in the room with you. Yeah, so Future Proof Homes is my YouTube channel that focuses really on building local voice assistance hardware and software for the smart home. And we've kind of bridged over to not just creating content on YouTube, but actually developing our own hardware and writing our own software and firmware as well. So full-blown kind of like startup over here that's taking off, and it's a total blast. So favorite stuff for 2024. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I really like the Matter and Thread protocol in general. Like I like the movement that we're starting to see happen, where devices and companies have realized that the IoT wars of the past, where we all had all these separate devices that tried to connect to the internet, is not what people want. And moving towards like network of things, where everything's local and is using the same protocol, is the future. And I'm super hopeful that Matter and Thread will be the vehicle that the world uses, and it will kind of give birth to all kinds of future products for all of us. So not necessarily a product that I love, but the Matter Thread protocol as it's evolving is just, I think it has huge potential. I hope it works.
Yeah, really interested, Brad, with Matter. I don't know if you've played around with Matter and Matter over Thread much. I found that Matter is working really, really well over Wi-Fi, but
Yes.
up to now, I haven't really managed to get a successful Matter over Thread integration with Home Assistant. I've had to connect it to my my Apple device, my HomePod Mini, and then share the code over to Home Assistant. Have you managed to do a direct Home Assistant Thread integration?
I have the same problems as you, actually. It's funny to hear you mention it. So for those who don't know, like Matter is it's the language that's used to communicate between the devices, and then Thread is the network protocol that's used, and in this case, it's like a mesh networking protocol. So you can use the Matter language for two objects or two products to talk to each other over Wi-Fi. And you're right, Simon, that works really well for me. But as soon as you start trying to send that language back and forth through the Thread mesh protocol, I too have had issues. It's just not there yet. It's really hard to build mesh networks. It took Zigbee and Z-Wave many years, and they still haven't perfected it, which is why we have Thread popping into the picture. Yeah, well, I hope Thread does great things, but the Matter, just the language that all these products are speaking, the Matter language, I'm excited for.
I had a bit of the opposite experience, at first at least, where my Matter over Thread devices, at least routed through an Apple TV 4K, were working really well for me in Home Assistant. But I struggled at first with the Matter over Wi-Fi devices, I think because of just sort of a maybe more complex home network setup and trying to get it across the VLANs to work
Yeah.
correctly. But now it seems to be pretty stable. But for a while, Matter over Wi-Fi was more of a struggle for me.
Yeah, I started with Matter over Wi-Fi first and didn't really have any issues. But yeah, you do have to, if you have the different VLANs, the IPv6 stuff between VLANs will definitely mess you up. I do have Matter over Thread going with just a little EFR chipset right now, and it's just not there yet, like how stable like Zigbee and stuff has been for me. So I haven't like totally jumped into it. I've had a lot of issues of having to like reset things and stuff like that with it.
Yeah, we've got a kind of a different take being the manufacturer side. We've played around with building devices for Matter on the new C6 chips, which allow Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Matter over Thread, and there's really just not a whole lot of resources and documentation and examples, and I would say yeah, it seems a little unpolished right now, trying to create new devices on that system.
Yeah, all the big companies that are behind, I think it's CSA is the acronym, but that are behind creating this protocol. I'm sure there's a lot of politics going on behind the scenes, and it causes a protocol like this to disappoint. And if you've read your history on smart homes, you know that something like Matter and Thread has tried to be invented in the past many times, but it kind of has the same. It's kind of akin to like the Betamax wars, and then at one point there was like HD. Well, it was Blu-ray versus something else. HD.
HD DVD, I think, or something.
Yeah, yeah. So the big companies get together and they're like, let's invent this thing. Let's all try to get along. And you know, if it doesn't pan out, maybe good people like us can take it further and then build upon it, move it in the right direction. Because if the big guys can't get along and it ends up upsetting all of us, then we haven't made any progress anywhere. But
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
it does great things.
One of the issues I had like early on with Matter over Wi-Fi was actually like it was trying to remember, it was like Linkind bulbs, they were Matter, and then over Wi-Fi, and you brought them into Home Assistant, but all you could do was turn them on and off. And I know they fixed a lot of this, but then so like I contacted the manufacturer and was like, we're like, oh well, you need XYZ firmware update. I'm like, well, how do I get the firmware update? Well, you got to attach to our app. Well, then you had to register with their app. So then you had to join their app, get the firmware update. Then you had to disconnect it and put it back with Home Assistant. It was a mess, and that was just one of my big complaints was the whole firmware updates on Matter. But I know the Home Assistant has started to do some stuff with that, with doing if the manufacturer will give the firmware update file to Home Assistant for the Matter over Wi-Fi stuff.
I think kind of the two main challenges for me with Matter have been, one, what I see is kind of feature gatekeeping. Like to unlock, like you were just saying, it maybe it only exposes on off for the device. But if you want all of the features of it, you still have to go back to the manufacturer app. And I don't know how much of that is intentional versus the architecture of Matter just doesn't allow for it right now. And then the other thing is, even when a new Matter spec gets released that, say, for example, makes it possible to connect a robot vacuum over Matter, you still may wait, a year or more for the different smart home platforms to actually adopt that new spec. So it's very fragmented.
Yep.
Awesome. Do you want to give us an intro there, mate? We almost missed out on you. Got everyone's chatting so much.
So I guess I don't know my intro. I've been doing, which he's not here. Actually, I started doing a lot of stuff with Dr. Z's like way back, and I just like started out doing like, hey, I wanted a dimmer with Tasmota on it for like smart home control with Home Assistant. There was no other like dimmers in even the U.S. market. And so I found one dimmer and reverse engineered like the serial protocol. It had an ESP8266 on it, flashed it, did a pull request to Tasmota, and got where we had like a touch dimmer, like one of the first ones in Tasmota. And I was like, well, he's like, well, make a video about it. And I was like, nobody wants to see that. So I made this like awful video about it. And then people were like, well, show me how you did this, with this Sonoff Basic and this and all this. And I was like, sure. And it just kind of evolved from there. So that's where I've kind of stayed to that, is where this is still like my hobby of things and just sharing projects and different tech, and probably don't follow the rules a whole lot, but still have fun with it. So.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed some of your real old stuff there. It's fantastic to see what that Sonoff Basic was. Just such a revolutionary product, eh? It just really, really took over, and people just got to see what you could do with something that was, you could then hack and flash and open source. Just amazing, eh?
Definitely is. It was definitely easier then for things, and then it just got evolved as things went on with all the different products and it became the game of like, hey, I want to take this product and flash it, because there wasn't like any Apollo stuff where you could just buy sensors off the market and pair it up with Home Assistant. Like, that spoils you now with like, take something out the box and it just pops up in Home Assistant. You're like, what the hell is this? So.
I know, it's got so easy, eh? Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to, I see we've got a Jerry over here. I think he's a manufacturer of smart home blinds.
Yeah.
It seems that he's implementing, do you guys know Jerry?
Yeah, Jerry works with the Eve. I think it's Eve Motion Blinds.
Okay. I think I've met Jerry.
Yeah, I'm aware of
at the
them.
meetup.
Yeah, they make really nice smart blinds, and they recently partnered with Eve, to make the Matter blinds. Yeah,
That's
really-
right. I think I remember looking at their website and being like, this is great. You guys, they supported Zigbee and Z-Wave and Matter and Wi-Fi, all the protocols. And I was like, oh, that's excellent to have that choice.
And then Jesse's in here too, from ESP Home. I don't know if you saw that, Simon. He gave a wave.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I
So,
didn't realize that.
one
Jesse,
thing-
okay, welcome, Jesse.
One thing I thought was pretty cool about speaking about Zigbee and Thread over Matter was, I don't know if you saw at CES, Acaria, or I think it's Acaria, I believe. They're actually doing, in some of their newer stuff, they're doing dual protocol. It's not really dual protocol in a way, it's dual firmware, I found, where you actually pick if you want it to be Matter over Thread, or do you want it to be Zigbee on like their light switches and their light bulbs. So you could start it out by being Zigbee, and they're like, hey, I move on to Thread, and then you just open their app, and through the app on your phone, you can change the firmware over to Thread or back and forth. It was pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure the Shelly booth at CES, I think they were also showing off several multi-protocol devices
Oh
as
man,
well.
that Shelly booth looked amazing, eh? I wish I could have been there to see it, man. I've been playing with quite a bit of Shelly stuff recently, and man, that Shelly booth was amazing. They've got the big wall display now that they released. They've got the LoRaWAN modules that they can release. Just amazing, eh? Trevor, do you want to introduce yourself there? We almost missed you.
Yeah, so I'm Trevor from Apollo Automation. We're a manufacturer of IoT equipment, primarily for Home Assistant. We, started off this, my co-founder Justin and I, with just a fun idea to make a motion sensor that we were kind of frustrated didn't exist out there. and we thought like, oh, we'll build it for ourselves. If we sold 10, that would be like the coolest thing in the world. Uh, and so we launched the product out. We were working like one Saturday a month, just like getting together, building and shipping. It became 2 Saturdays a month, then every Saturday a month. We didn't want to give up every Saturday, so Justin went on part time. A week later, went full time, and now it's full time jobs for us. And we've released quite a few products and grown quite a bit.
That might be where Brad is.
Yeah, I really admire the Apollo guys. And an inside story, but I was telling Simon earlier, but before I even embarked on this journey, I reached out to you guys. I just really admired what you were doing, and I appreciate the time and the wisdom, by the way. But yeah, the Apollo crew is just doing awesome work, and I'm really really happy to see people like Apollo bringing that type of bottom up, like grassroots, but high quality hardware that we can trust and that actually works. We've kind of just needed that for so long. And instead of top down, that has an ulterior motive. It's really great to see that happening. But yeah, Justin and the Apollo crew are doing good stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm in the early stages. I'm going through it too. I'm learning a lot, man. Since we last spoke, Trevor, oh man, I've learned so much. And we're gonna make it through. Like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel for sure. But it's been a great uphill battle.
Yeah, it's definitely really neat what Home Assistant and ESP Home like has allowed, and the new manufacturing technologies today with easy, access PCB production and 3D printing. That allows us like true community, people who have longtime users of Home Assistant to engineer these devices that like we know the community, will like because we are part of the community. We're not some executives in a boardroom, 100 miles away who don't run Home Assistant building devices. And the cool thing that, I think we've both seen, Brad, is the community involvement. Like we have heavy community development, like, posting either surveys or posting early in the development phase and getting feedback has been a really cool process.
Yeah, 100%. The community is more than just giving feedback and being so open to trying hardware at the younger stages. So it's like friendly fire. They're a very gentle audience, but they're very encouraging and they steer the company in the right direction, which is excellent. But also the community, they contribute back and they add to it, and it starts to snowball on itself. And for me, like it's really been it gives me great purpose in life. I don't mean to be like cheesy about it, but I really feel a strong sense of purpose to build in that direction. And like waking up each day after starting this company, and before or after creating the YouTube channel and starting this company, I feel so much happier as a person than I did before. Like it means a lot to me, and the community is just it's wonderful. It's really good to have you guys. So. Yeah, I know Paulo has the same thing. Your community over there is really popping off. You guys got it going on.
Is that mainly through Discord, that both of you are kind of getting that community feedback and helping to kind of shape the direction of what you're building, or other areas?
Yeah, I mean, our primarily is Discord. Reddit's tough because
Yes.
we don't want to abuse the Home Assistant platforms and subreddits there that aren't ours, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we do post there to get some feedback, but really in our Discord is where we have the most product development and stuff like that and feedback. But it all comes like down to things early. Like I mean, we love talking with the community, you guys, the content creators, all of this, like as early as we can on ideas to say like, hey, like we're thinking about making this. Is this a bad idea? Like, what are we missing here? And I think a really good example of that was our plant sensor that we released lately. So we have this product survey to say like, hey, what should Apollo make next? What's the next product we should build? And like the number one was a plant sensor. And it's like we went out and like looked it up and all this, and I like we started a thread in Discord and I posted like, hey, like there's tons of like $5, $10 plant sensors out there. Like we can't make a $5 plant sensor. We're trying to assemble in the U.S. and fulfill from the U.S. and all this, and really worked with our community to figure out like what were the shortcomings there, what features could we add and functionality to get us to a level that we could build them here in America and like still give the community something they wanted.
Awesome. Brad, do you want to kick us off with the next question, having a look at what would you like to see as a smart home product released in 2025? Just maybe something that's just totally over the top, just thinking out of the box.
Over the top. Yeah, I can do that. I really, really want to see what I call an AI base station, ChatGPT in a box, if you will. And it should be affordable. It should be powerful. It should be local. It's a new wave of computing that you can have locally inside of your home. The industry calls it edge computing, so you could Google that and learn about it. I really, really want to see that technology start to appear in all of our homes. As soon as you have that, we will have that, by the way. Like I could actually show in a second what we have here on the desk that we're working on. But this, you can imagine this little box that would exist in all our homes in the future. It has AI in it, such that you could talk to it. It can control your home. You could upload financial documents to it, personal financial docs, and have a conversation with it about how to optimize your taxes, right? It's usually a personal conversation where you would hire a professional. It's very expensive to gain that knowledge. You could have legal, conversations with it. You can, just generally share personally how you're feeling and know that it's yours. You could upload photos to it and have it even adjust photos. All of these things are possible today. The technology you see in Frigate that's tracking people's faces and motion detection, that can run locally inside of your home. This could be one single box that I just really, really think is going to be a tool where you'll have the world before that tool and the world after that tool. That's what I want to see starting to emerge in 2025. And that's one of the things that we are laser focused on building. So I'll be putting some stuff out on that, and we'll do some live demos, but it's not just for me to do it either. I know a lot of people are going to do this. What I'm describing here is not rocket science. Like everyone here is nodding their head. They're like, yes, we all want that, right? So there's going to be multiple people that do it, which is great and healthy. And that also speaks to the need for like a common protocol, like a method for all of the devices that might exist out there to use. We don't want another Matter, Thread, Zigbee, Z-Wave decade of competing there. Let's just early on, let's figure out a way to have these devices communicate. And then just let products hit the market, because that is a better future than having a gigantic eye in the sky. So don't let that happen. That's my 2025 hope.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I looked for. Like kind of the whole AI thing is like, we need to get there much like Frigate got there cheaply, because before Frigate kind of blew up, you could get the little Coral TPUs for like 30, $40. I know prices come back down, but if we could get there with a cheap, not somewhat powerful local AI thing, because it's like when I do like a voice assistant stuff, they're like, "Oh, you didn't set it up right. You didn't do with this crazy." I'm like, "No, look, I don't want some crazy $1,000 GPU memory hog, power hog in my house running just to do some voice stuff. I'm just not going to do that there." And so like I want something to be like something small, kind of like what you're talking about, that doesn't, make the lights dim when you turn it on.
Can I flip my camera and I'll show you guys a sneak peek of the thing, or is that allowed? Yeah.
Of course, mate. Yeah.
Let's see if I can figure out how to do this.
Well, we
can turn off the
jump to somebody
camera.
else if we want to figure out your camera.
Yeah, it looks like it says you can turn off the camera while recording, but you can't switch cameras, says Riverside. So I think I might have to exit and come back in. Actually, I could cheat here. Oh, sorry for the messy camera situation, but
It's all about doing it live.
yeah. So there's the satellite one, and then we have the, you take these two boards, you wrap them in a 3D printed enclosure. So that's what's inside there. And you have your speaker on the bottom, that's built in there. So this is one unit. And then there's your AI in a box. So you can say, "Hey Jarvis. Hey Jarvis. Failure on demo. Hey Jarvis." Oh, love it. "Hey Jarvis.
It was a live demo.
Hey, you finally came online. We're on a YouTube live stream. Can you say hi to everybody? Let's see. Hey, everyone. It's great to be back online. Say hi to everyone, and thanks for tuning into our YouTube live stream. Yeah, so anyway, that's the early prototype that's running here, and it's only going to get better. It should be in a price range that people can afford, and it can do a lot more than just talk to you. So yeah, I mean that's what we're working on. I really hope to get there and do it fast.
So speaking of that, I did order one of your boards. So,
Hey, how's it going?
I've been playing with it a little bit, and just I haven't done a whole lot with it yet. So I probably need to figure out what cases y'all recommend, or 3D printed cases and stuff like that, instead of just having a board sitting on the table. So
The case came out like a week ago, I think. So you can 3D print it now, what you just saw, and it all prints on one plate, and then you just snap it together, no screws. So
okay.
it's all there now.
Cool.
Do you have on your roadmap just the all-in-one solution for folks to get? So the speaker, the case, the two boards, everything in one?
Yeah, I'm sure the Apollo guys know the pain there. Trying to get all the components into one place for manufacturing, and then all the other components that aren't part of the actual PCB. So the USB cables, the power adapters, the speakers, the JST connectors. It's a lot of parts that need to arrive into one place such that they can get put in packaging so that they can then be distributed to anywhere in the world. And so we're working on getting that online, right? The first goal was just build the PCBs and get those shipping out. But the dev kit, we'll add more value to the dev kit in the future. The speaker will be in there, the cables will be in there, the power adapters as well. And it should be as simple as just a one-click buy button, and then read the documentation, snap it together. It's like the IKEA of electronics. Build it at home, which is great because it makes you fall in love with your own product because you got to kind of build it. And then the community's there to support, and we all work to just push the world forward.
Awesome. Michael, what about you? What are you looking forward to in 2025? What's your
So
absolute dream?
I had two things that were top of mind. One was exactly what Brad talked about, kind of the AI in a box. So I'm super excited and enthusiastic to see something like that come through. But the other thing, since we have Trevor here, is sensors that just fade into the background. Like I really want smart home sensors that just kind of blend seamlessly into my home. A lot of us may deal with, how do you create a smart home that everyone in the home is okay with? And when you start having devices and sensors, poking out from every corner in the home, sometimes that can get some pushback. And I don't know what the solution is here, but just really would love to see, how we can integrate sensors kind of more seamlessly. Obviously, some folks are already, and I've seen it from you, Brad, like cut a hole in the ceiling and put millimeter wave up in the ceiling or something like that. But yeah, just kind of that thoughtful design around how to integrate things into the home. So you don't see it, but it's there when you need it.
I think what's awesome with millimeter wave, Michael, is that it can actually see through plasterboard. So from what I can see, you could actually put one in the ceiling without even cutting a hole. If you can get into your roof space, you can just stick a millimeter wave up there and it should work through the plasterboard. Is that right, Trevor?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Millimeter wave will go through, drywall as we call it over here. But yeah.
That's what I'd use in the bathroom. Is I just have them in a one gang box, and actually have them behind a plastic. And that was one of the issues. You were picking up someone from the other room, so I had to
Yeah.
like tone it down and kind of get the targets down where it's just picking up the person in the bathroom.
I did learn recently that millimeter wave might struggle when it's behind a speaker grill. At least the 2450s that we're using in 2410s, they couldn't get through that mesh metal material.
Oh yeah.
And then also the thick glass that's commonly in bathroom or in showers, like walk-in showers. I really thought millimeter wave might be able to penetrate it, but I'm still doing installs for customers' homes sometimes, and the millimeter wave can clearly see the window where you walk into the shower, but it cannot penetrate that shower glass, which I really thought was interesting.
Yeah, it's a
I had
challenging thing to
exactly
solve,
the same
especially if you
problem.
want it to kind of just be hidden, because like you're saying, like the specific setup and the angle you have it, looking, and the sensitivity and the distance, like you have to really dial it in just right for your automation to trigger when you want and not when you don't want it to. So yeah, it takes a lot of factors coming together to kind of get it the way you want.
I see
Yeah.
we've got a comment here from Jerry saying that Signify is going to update their lights to change into sensors. So I think that's maybe a really cool way, Michael, of actually integrating different sensors into things that you're already using, like lights and light switches. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, yeah, because for us, the struggle is if you give an in-wall or in-ceiling sensor, how does the user power it? So there's different codes running 5 volts, typically not allowed through, just up there. So you're either looking at PoE or hooking into, mains power up there through light sockets or running wiring and things like that. 12 volt could be another option. So yeah, that's definitely a hurdle, and we built our first PoE sensor for an industrial client that's actually using Home Assistant. That's pretty crazy,
Oh, cool.
and I would love to adapt that to some other sensors to allow powering them in your ceiling and in your wall and being able to hide them a little bit better.
I think, is it Innovelli that has a light switch with millimeter wave built in?
Not yet.
Not
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, it's coming.
Coming.
Yeah, I ordered one in June of 23, and no, I don't have it yet.
Oh, okay.
It was in a yeah. They had a video on it. I think with Linus or something like that, and the millimeter wave was struggling, which
Yeah.
was interesting. That was the struggling part. So
But the downside is sometimes your light switch is not in an ideal location for the millimeter wave to exist. In fact, it could be pointing across the room at a house plant that's moving when the fan gets turned on,
Exactly.
and then it triggers false positives. And one thing that I would say, it's still early, but Akara is doing fairly well, and it sounds hokey pokey. They call it their AI intelligence thing, but basically trying to detect patterns in the room, and then kind of store those, cache those, and then you can go in and tell Akari that those type of events, please ignore them in the future. Like it's just a spot where you might see some motion, and it's a false positive. Don't fall for it. I think if you put the right software and user experience on top of the millimeter wave, you can have a much better out of the box configuring experience. Because Michael, you're right. Like today, you got to pull it out and you got to follow all these steps. Like if you remember when you used to buy a surround sound system back in the day, it was extremely complicated to like tune it and get all the audio to be calibrated correctly, and you had to follow these steps. And now you have these systems that just like fire audio around the room, microphone picks it up, and it starts to learn, and then it calibrates itself. And so if somebody could build something like that, that is just a common pattern that we all use on top of millimeter wave, then you can position them kind of all over the place in the room, and they start to not give false positives all the time.
Yeah, when I first got millimeter wave in every room in the house, I got it all dialed in just the way I wanted, and then later I decided to automate my ceiling fans, which of course then threw off everything I had set up for millimeter wave.
Yes,
And then I had to
yes.
reconfigure it all to account for the ceiling fans and like that curtain blowing just a little bit over there.
Yes.
Yep.
Has anyone heard of these whiz bulbs that Jesse's talking about here? Whiz bulbs that can actually sense people walking past them using Wi-Fi disruptions?
I've heard some stuff
yeah.
about that with where I want to say it was what may have been signified. Was it Philips Hue stuff wanting to do some stuff where supposedly their Zigbee chips could pick up disruptions of the 2.4 gigahertz, and I'm not sure how well that would work. I would want to really see that real world before I say like, oh, this is amazing,
So Travis, what would be your dream home assistant or home automation product for this year?
For this year, and we kind of did talk about it, is actually a decent, now you got to put the hardware with the software. I think we're kind of there with the hardware, would be a PoE thread over Matter with an actual decent add-on Docker container for full-on thread over Matter that's easy for people to install and not have to jump through so many hoops take it out the box, plug it in, boom, do the add-on or Docker container, depending on what you run. And now you're going to have all your Thread devices, kind of like with Zigbee to MQTT, straight into Home Assistant. That would be pretty damn slick. Because right now it's just like this fragmented mess, I find, of trying to do matter over thread stuff.
Yeah, totally. Trevor, what about you? What do you guys think is exciting for 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I am excited to see the voice systems improve, local voice. The other thing we talk about in our Discord all the time, but like I think it's been named the Mega Sensor or something. It just, one ceiling mounted, device with PoE that can, combine air quality, motion, voice, speakers, things like that. And I think that would be pretty cool. So it's something we look forward to. We're chipping away at it, like I said, with our first PoE sensor, and the stability and powering it through PoE is incredible.
So a question for you here. Adam is asking, he's saying he's pretty much given up tuning millimeter wave to get exact results. He wants to know, is there a way that an AI model could tune the millimeter wave?
Yeah. I was just going to jump in and say the Highlink app that almost all these millimeter waves can connect to, it does have a tuning mode in there that essentially, if you leave the room and you turn on the tuning mode, it will kind of analyze your room and adjust all of your parameters to where they need to be. That seems pretty successful.
Yeah, I'll say the app can seem kind of sketchy, but it does work well. It does the job.
It does.
Awesome.
Going back to the question though, I struggle to think of there might be some way to send data to a millimeter wave chip to configure it. And there might be so that's the output of the model, right? It's trying to send data to the sensor to say, hey, I want to configure you in such a way that you don't listen to that hotspot over there. That's where the false positives are. And then there might be a way to have a model actually like inspect historical data and try, and that's your input side. But that's like where my brain stops for thinking about how AI would tune millimeter wave. I don't think you can throw AI at anything and just magically it fixes things. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's probably a stretch to just say, can an AI model just tune the millimeter wave for you? Maybe we'll get there in the future.
Come on, AI is in everything, right?
That's actually one of the reasons, like Rabbit R1, or what was the other what was the other startup that was out there
the hologram thing, the pin.
Yeah, the pin. Humane. Yeah. So like the reason I think a lot of those guys like took off like a rocket and then collapsed. Not collapsed. I mean, they're still out there. Sorry if anyone's listening and likes their products, but they tried to do everything with AI. They were not surgical. They were like, hey, you can put this thing on your chest here, and it can tell you if it's sunny outside and tell you the weather, and it can send a text, and you can send photos to it, and it was like it's setting itself up for failure because it's just promising too much. But if you use AI like a scalpel, which is now like people now call this agentic, it's an agent, right? You're using AIs to do one thing. And then if you have, one of the AIs do one thing very well, and the other agent does something very well then they can communicate with each other and use each other's benefits, and you arrive at something great. And so I just think that maybe there's a way to like use AI to do one thing, which is tune a millimeter wave, but it's just probably not the most exciting use case to throw AI at.
So Michael, let's have a next topic here. Moving on to Home Assistant in 2025. What are you running as your hardware at the moment, and is that what you're going to stay on, or do you think you're going to move to something different, and why?
Yeah, so I've got 2 Home Assistant servers. I've got kind of my main production environment that runs my home. I've got that running on a mini PC. It's a Beelink S12 Pro mini PC that I grabbed on sale off Amazon, I think. And I migrated to it from a Raspberry Pi 4. This was maybe, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 months ago when I made that switch. And it's been great on the mini PC. I just love how much faster everything is. I mean, it's way overkill for just running Home Assistant, but I just love how much faster, restarts are, ESP Home, etc. But I still run kind of a more like development or test Home Assistant environment on a Raspberry Pi 4 still. So I plan to continue with those two.
What about you, Brad? What are you running Home Assistant on?
I have a way overkill super micro NAS server in a rack with like 16 hard drives in it because it runs Unraid and it doubles over as, you know, my everything box. And then it just happens to run Home Assistant as a VM. But it's pretty interesting to think that it's Home Assistant runs inside a VM, and then inside that is Docker containers because it's
Yes.
supervised. So it's like Inception. But yeah, that's how I've always run my Home Assistant. It is overkill. I do not recommend it for people. And I just couldn't speak much into like what the ideal hardware is. I do think if these AI base stations come on the scene in the future, that maybe there's some extra headroom next to the model to run Home Assistant right there next to it. But it's yet to be seen if that hardware is going to support that type of stuff.
What about you, Travis? I see you've done a couple of videos talking about the benefits of different hardware. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll see. And I'm probably going to talk long here, so let's see if I can cut it down. I started out by accidentally installing Home Assistant. That was just, I had a Xeon box that was like on Unraid way back. And I just like, hey, we're going through, I was trying to get off of Smart Things. I'd been on Smart Things 2 or 3 months. I hated it and everything. And I was like, oh, look, what this Home Assistant app. So I just installed the Docker container. There was no onboarding then. So it just pops up the GUI, and it had like all of my Google speakers, my Roku's, everything was like auto discovered. And I was like, holy crap. And I could like do text to speech stuff like right there. So I was kind of sold. And that's when I started bringing all my Sonoff stuff over to it. So I've stayed with that, but then I kept seeing everybody like, well, all this HAS.io stuff, it wasn't called HAOS, it was HAS.io. And they're like, oh, run it on a Pi 3. It's the best. It's the best. And I was like, so I put it on a Pi 3 and I was like, holy crap, this thing takes like 5 minutes to reboot. And back in the day, if you changed anything in the YAML, like the GUI or anything, integrations, you had to reboot the whole thing. And so for me, a reboot was 8 seconds. And I was like, I'm not waiting 5 minutes. And so I went back to running it Docker containers. So that's where I've stayed. Right now, it's sitting on an i7 14th gen with 64 gig, I think, and 60 terabytes. It's not just my Home Assistant box. I don't run it in a VM. I prefer my Docker containers. Like, I actually have 2 Docker containers of Home Assistant on the same box. So, like, I may have 2 MQTTs, 2 Node-REDs. I also have a VM on there. So it's I wouldn't say it's complex, but Unraid makes it fairly simple to manage all your Docker containers. So you just like click, hey, I want this one, and say install, fill out the stuff, and then boom. It's kind of like, that's what add-ons are. But again, I don't recommend it to all the users out there, but it's stupid fast. I got a comment the other day when I was compiling ESP Home. They're like, did you edit the video? And I was like, no, I compiled an ESP Home in like 10 seconds. And, you know, it's just, you can't go back from that when you go to like the yellows and the greens. Those are just too slow for doing some of the things for me. But they're great little systems for doing something small, but just not someone else. I really think the sweet spot is like the N100 or the N150 computers. I mean, even Home Assistant's recommending it now, the N100s. But I will say the only problem there is they really need something like some of the other projects, like a USB loader, where you can just take a USB stick, pop it in, and boom, and load HAOS on it without having to jump through a bunch of rabbit holes or follow one of my dumb videos. So that's probably where I want to, like I tell a lot of people, go is like find a good N95, N100 setup.
Oh, legend. What about you guys at Apollo there, Trevor? What do you normally run it on?
Yeah, I mean, we have many Home Assistant installs running because we have them at demo sites, we have them at trade shows for us, we have them in our office, in our homes, in our grandparents' homes. And I think I think it depends on the user. I think it's, if they're trying to get into Home Assistant and maybe they're not super techy and don't want to go the N100, the Docker route, then the green is incredible. Just get it, open up the box, and it's running, and you can get started and go. I think the N100 is a great spot for somebody who wants to go through that and installing and getting that running. Um, so yeah. I mean, most of ours run off of Odroids, just because we have a ton of them and they're cheap and we can deploy them really quickly all over the place. But yeah, I think the green to the N100 is, they're two great spots.
What sort of other software are you guys running? Obviously, ESP Home is just amazing. Have you got any ideas, Trevor, when ESP Home is going to be available on is it a C6 or an S6 version that we were talking about the other
Yeah,
day?
we're talking about the C6.
Yeah, that's
You can run it on it. It's just
Yep.
not fully supported.
Right.
So yeah, and there's some hurdles you got to jump over. And you're not getting like the Thread and the Zigbee and all that through ESP Home right now. You can use the C6 for the Wi-Fi. Um,
Now, don't
but
confuse the number, the C6, the C5. That gets confusing.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, they could definitely use some naming convention help or some marketing help there. All these long names are so confusing for people. You end up buying the wrong product off Alibaba and then being like, "What? This wasn't what I was expecting." And it's because yeah, it's so easy to get confused.
yeah. And then Brad, I'm sure you've seen even as like the manufacturer, once you go to the C6,
Yes.
then there's like 10 versions of the C6 chip with different
Yes.
flash and all different things, different footprints. They do get confusing.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I
I've
mean, I'd
been
like to see more support and more for the C6, and then on the Espressif side, even the manufacturers of them have so little documentation on getting going with Matter and all this stuff. It would be great to have more support there.
Yep.
Because
Now, another topic that's quite commonly discussed, certainly on my channel, is around your display of Home Assistant in your house. I just did a survey about a couple of days ago just to see what people are using, and it still seems that tablets are sort of number one. What do you guys think? What are you running? Are you running any sort of displays in your house? Brad, do you want to kick it off?
Oh, I'm gonna get flamed by my answer here. Um, I Well, first, I've built little tablets before, and I've tried Brilliant back in the day, which that was not wise of me, but I tried it. Um, all right, I'll say that out loud. So I think the tablets on the wall is a cool party trick, but I don't find myself using it. I put in all this effort to build it. It looks cool on the wall, and then I never use it. I walk past it. What I really want is I want a smart home that's truly smart. It just does the right thing because it's designed to do the right thing. And then if it doesn't, I want to be able to use my voice anywhere in the home to make it do the thing that I want it to do. I don't want to have to walk to a certain location and touch a button. And if you've ever hold your arm out like this, I'm a tall dude, so hold my arm out and I'm like trying to get my finger still on this tiny screen and I'm pushing the wrong buttons. I'm just like, it isn't for me. So I'm not a tablet dude, like on the wall. It's not where I like to focus.
Well, you won't get flamed. I'll just say welcome, friend.
I guess I'm in light company then, because yeah, I spent a bunch of time getting a tablet up on the wall, building my dashboard such that it was dynamic. It would work both for a mobile phone and for a tablet in landscape, like just one dashboard, and it works on both.
That's cool.
And it was really cool, I thought, when I set it up, and we never touch it. I told myself it made sense because for guests who come over, like maybe my in-laws are visiting, if they want to do something, I don't know. I told myself they can use the tablet. But like you were saying, I just want the home to do it for me without having me to take intervention on a tablet. So I know some folks have it and love it, works great for them, which is awesome. But for me, it just sits there and doesn't get too much use.
Yep.
Yeah. What about Trevor? Do you guys run any sort of smart home displays?
I've got one unique one, and I've made a post about it before. Is the smart fridge with like a big dashboard on it, so it's got like a huge screen. That's
Yeah.
like, I would not buy the fridge for that. The house that I bought had that in it, and it's actually very useful because it auto wakes itself up when you walk up and all of that, and your dashboard's immediately there. So like that's nice, and it's quite large, so it doesn't have maybe the same problems that Brad was talking about. This is, it's a huge screen. But other than that, I interact with it just through my phone is the easiest.
Yeah, yeah, we're kind of the same way. It's like I've even asked the wife and everything. I mean, it's you always see it's like, oh, it's cool. You can control stuff from the wall and everything, but then you start to think of it and you're like, what are we doing? This is 2025 or even 2024, and we're standing at the wall controlling our houses. Like it just feels so archaic to me. And there's been multiple people that I've talked to about that. Hey, we put in tablets and everything. We put displays. And I'm like, what do you use it for now? They're like, well, after 2 or 3 weeks, we just put the cameras on them now, and that's pretty much it. They don't control anything. And for me, the most part, I prefer to spend, like, if you looked at my GUI, it's absolutely ugly. There's like broken and entities everywhere, and it's like double everything. We don't use the GUI a whole lot, but I put more stuff into building a true smart home instead of a remote control one, and doing automations like, hey, when we turn the alarm on, it shuts all the shades, or I turn the alarm on at night, it changes the lights to this and sets this, and or oh look, hey, it automatically will lock the front door because we forgot to lock the front door, or then turn off the garage door openers. And it makes all those decisions for you instead of, you don't have to do them. And then the little bit of other stuff we have to do, I'll use some voice things with it. It covers like 95% of the stuff. And then the other stuff is buttons. So like I don't want to have to go stop at the wall and push the button or scroll to a screen or whatever. I just want to spam a button as I walk by and not have to really look. And so it needs to be something with a click feedback as well. And then I know I hit that button as I went by and just do whatever, like to turn on a light or something like that. So for a screen, for me, if I did that, it would have to be like something like 15 inches or larger, because then I'd want to see like a couple cameras on it all the time. And because I know that's what it would turn into.
Yeah, when I first put up the wall tablet, to make it just easier to use, I had an automation that would just turn on the tablet, when you walk near it based on motion. We have 2 young kids, so they were loving that. They would just walk near it.
Oh, didn't even think
Tablet
of
turns
that. Yeah.
on. It was just an immediate disaster, and I was forcefully asked to turn that feature off.
I have I have twins. They're 3.5 years old, and they're just they hear me screaming. I won't say the word, but the word that starts with A for the voice assistant, and then we now have the word that starts with J that I use, and the okay, insert word here. I don't want to trigger anyone's home. My kids are now running around screaming that word at the ceiling everywhere, and I'm just like, oh, please stop! Like, this is not good, because they're just flipping things on and off now. So yeah, I mean.
One thing I always want to tell people when doing smart home stuff, and I know it kind of talks about Michael's, blending in, is you should always, when you think about some project you're doing, is always think and set a rule for yourself of never removing functionality of the home when you're adding functionality. You kind of want it to be in the background just to add extra stuff, but you still want your home to work like it should, without having to teach somebody something. And I see that issue quite too many times where someone will over-engineer something where now you have to do something more, and you're like, what? Like, you spent more time to do this now.
So what about automations, guys? Let's kick it off with Michael. What is your favorite tool for doing automation? Are you using Node-RED or Home Assistant graphical user interface, YAML? What are you using, Michael?
Yeah, I have yet to dabble in Node-RED. For whatever reason, I guess I don't know what the use case is that's going to drive me over to start playing with it. I'm sure if you are using it, you can help sell me on it, but I just use a combination of the graphical interface and YAML, depending upon the type of automation that I'm looking to do. So yeah, nothing too fancy.
What about you, Brad?
I went really deep into Node-RED for a few years. I've actually ended up leaving because Home Assistant's automation engine has matured, and it ended up, I started experimenting with moving my automations over to Home Assistant, and I haven't moved all of them. There's still 20% of the magic is happening in Node-RED, but I'd probably moved 80% over to Home Assistant. The idea that I had when I first started firing up Node-RED, well, JavaScript engineer. So I was like, oh, great. I can get out of YAML and I can go in and get the ideas out of my head in JavaScript pretty quickly. So Node-RED gave me that ability. But the way I thought about it is when you go into like interviews, computer science interviews, they usually will ask you a dumb question like, you know, if you were going to build an elevator, how do you code an elevator? How do you build the software behind it? And so I thought to myself when I started in smart homes, I was like, what does the data model underneath a smart home look like? And in my mind, it was just this big JSON object, and you have people, and inside people, you have the names of the people in your family. And underneath each person in the family, you have their current position. Where are they located? They're in the living room. What are they doing? They are watching TV. And there was another. So basically, who, what, and when. If you know those things about everyone that's in your home in one model that just says Brad's in the kitchen and the oven is on, my wife is in the master bedroom, the TV is on, then you have laid the groundwork for all the amazing automations that you ever want to do in a smart home. And so I started building that in Node-RED. And once I had that data set that was just in real time adjusting, right? Because I had millimeter waves and stuff around the house, and I was Bluetooth tracking people to know who was in each room. And then if the TV was on, I was able to determine that Brad was in the room and he was watching TV. Once I had that in a single object, I was like, oh, I can just build all kinds of cool automations. Like if, then, this, that, just went crazy. And you couldn't do that in Home Assistant back in the day. Extremely complicated to do it in YAML. So I had to start in Node-RED in order to build that. And then it got to a point where now I'm starting to figure out how to migrate that thinking into Home Assistant. It's still really tough to achieve that. But yeah, that's kind of, I think in the future though, to be honest, that you should be able to tell an AI what you want the home to do under a certain condition, and it should write the YAML for you, period.
Yeah.
Full stop. And if it screws up, you should be able to say, why did you just not turn the lights on when I walked into this room? I told you to do that. And the AI is going to say, oh, sorry, I've just inspected the YAML and I didn't create that. Do you want me to create that? And you go, yes, please inject that into the YAML for me. And then boom, it's done. Right? That I think if that world comes into existence, you don't want tablets on your wall anymore. You want voice throughout your home, and you're not having to spend so much time writing all this YAML and creating complex automations. You have an AI that helps you do that. That's where I hope we get. And yeah.
So guys, we've got a question. What would you like to see for motorized window coverings? Jerry's asking. Has anyone got any ideas about what feedback we can give Jerry for what people are looking for in motorized blinds?
I can jump in on one because we're shopping for them for our new office building right now. Mine is simply cost.
Yeah, they're expensive, aren't they? The good ones are so expensive.
It's expensive. And when you're trying to look at all the windows and you're like, man, like there's 20 some windows in here, like holy cow. So sorry, Jerry, I know.
Yeah.
The thing that I would say kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier about blending into your home. I've got a bunch of different motorized blinds and shades. I love them, but what I don't love is the flashing lights and like the brand names written on them. Like all my other standard pull up and down shades in the house, there's no branding, there's no lights. They just look like shades, and I want my motorized shades to just look like shades as well. And I get to me, it's a conversation piece already. I don't think you need your brand on there, because if people are over and you have automated shades, like it's a conversation starter. Oh, what's that? Where'd you get that from?
Yeah, if you're looking for style, you should check out Jerry's, the company he works for. I can't pronounce the name, Calouse or something like that. But they do have some beautiful like blinds and tons of patterns that really look nice. Yeah.
Yep.
So we've got a question here from Smart Home Sellout. I want to know what each person's favorite automation is in their home. Who wants to kick that off?
Well, I guess I can, because you skipped me on the automation
sorry.
stuff.
Sorry.
I already kind of alluded to it a little bit. Just I'm deep, like Brad was. I still am. I'm deep into Node-RED just because I started with Home Assistant way back when it was all YAML stuff, and I spent more time on the forums trying to learn what to tab and space and syntax than actually on the business rules itself. And then I was on Reddit one day and someone posted this beautiful graphic of this motion sensor doing their light. It had lines and bubbles. And I was like, man, that's like BPM software. And I was like, that's awesome. I can just take and drag stuff and click and drag and not have to reboot Home Assistant all the time, even though it rebooted fast in a container. And so that's where I just went into Node-RED. And I know I watched the home automation stuff in they got the more graphical and Home Assistant, but I'm just too deep off into Node-RED. I've got so many crazy automations that depend on stuff, and I don't have all of my stuff. I know it sounds funny. I don't have all of my stuff in Home Assistant. So some of it's just through MQTT. And so I may skip Home Assistant out after of all of it. And so I don't even have that entity to act on. So that's where I don't know. I think I'm always going to be a Node-RED. I've got a few automations in Home Assistant itself. Like I do find one of my favorite automations is my laundry stuff for doing notifications on when the dryer's done, because I hate ironing clothes. And that's pretty simple to say, like, hey, is something at a certain wattage for so much time in as a Home Assistant automation, and it's pretty damn simple to do. And it's funny, I'll do the first part of that. I know you can do it now a little bit easier in Node-RED, but I'll do the first part and then I'll pick it up and I might do something with it in Node-RED based on various conditions. So I kind of just, most of it's Node-RED, but that's my favorite is the laundry stuff still to this day.
Awesome. What about you, Michael? You got a favorite automation?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot, and I always feel like I have to have some really wild, crazy automation. Honestly, though, it's the simple stuff that I would otherwise do manually every day.
Yep.
But I don't have to do it anymore. It's not like so exciting, but it's like the laundry thing, like you said, get into when the laundry is done, or when I record a YouTube video, there's like 20 things I have to do to kind of get set up.
Yes.
I just
Yep.
press one button underneath my desk and it does all of them for me. I press it twice and it undoes all of it.
Yep.
Or we open a window or a door in the house and it automatically pauses, our heating or cooling. So it's just those kind of small things that it just saves a little bit of time and makes life a little more convenient. But the one I did with you, Simon, was the raccoons. If you remember that one, I automate my irrigation system in the yard to turn on when the raccoons are detected at night in the yard. It kind of chases them away.
That's cool. That's a cool one. I haven't seen that work. I got to go look that up. That sounds awesome.
Now, I will looking at one of my comments, I will say one of my worst automations is actually turning lights off for my kid. Because now when he goes somewhere else to someone else's house and spends the night or spends the week when we're gone and at CES, they're like, he leaves the lights on everywhere. And I was like, yeah, at home he doesn't have to turn them on and off. So it definitely ruins your kids. So keep that in mind.
I see Jerry's asking if there's a simple timer function in Home Assistant. If anyone knows, there should be, in automations.
Yeah, I know the new voice preview has like a timer functionality in it. I don't know if
Yep.
that's more on the ESP home side, but I have not looked at that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything server side now that I think about it, but it is built into the Nabu hardware and the satellite one as well. Yeah.
What about you, Trevor? Any favorite automations?
Yeah, I see the same as what Michael was saying. Like, you feel like you have to have an answer, like being, in the home assistant space. That's like crazy because all the crazy automations are the ones that get the most upvotes. But mine are just like, because I'm lazy. They're just improving things so I don't have to do them. Turning on lights, turning off lights, checking door locks and all those things. Just simple things that I don't have to think about them, and then they just work, and I don't have to get up to go turn a light on. It just works.
The other one I have that's, I would say it's only crazy, but it's kind of neat is I've had it for years is it just to check the Waze entity for the commute time somewhere, like say in the morning when I'm going to the office. And I have a light switch in my bathroom that I pass by that can change. It has RGB on it. and it's the little panel. And so I'll just change it to green, red, or yellow based on like commute times. And so as soon as I walk by from the master bedroom, I'm like, oh, okay, it's green. I can kind of goof off and do what I want. But if it's red, I'm like, yep, I better get going type thing. So it's like kind of like in your face things like that. That's something simple.
Awesome.
I-
No, carry on.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna chime in on some favorite automations on mine, but one of mine, and I have it in one of my videos, is when I drive up to my garage, it automatically opens.
Yep.
And then when I get in the car and I turn the car on, the Wi-Fi on the car jumps on, it connects to my Wi-Fi in my home. And so my home knows that the car was just turned on, and then the garage door opens up and I can drive out, and then it closes it behind me. And it's really solid. It works, and it's just kind of magical. It was a pain to get there, though. It was a lot of testing and driving cars around. You couldn't even do it in your chair. Like I had to get in the car and like drive around and stuff, and go around the block to try to trigger it and stuff like that. I would look like such a weirdo to my neighbors. But yeah, that one's a cool one. And then I have another one where when my kids were really young, if after a certain time the movement was detected, I see. Is that a cool automation? Is that the
That's
chicken?
That was a real
if-
chicken, right?
Huh?
I think that was a real chicken, right?
It is a real chicken.
Oh no way! That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a real chicken. So yeah, it's cheaper to buy steaks than eggs, right? So
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Wait, are you really eating your own eggs and just do it that way to not have to go buy a grocery store?
yeah, we've got 13 or
That's awesome.
14 chickens, and I think just now she's going to incubate another 24 eggs and split them with somebody. So
That's great.
You gotta make some coop automations out there. Those look always pretty neat.
yeah, I have, and I don't want to cut off Brad again what he had going. So hopefully you held that thought. So
I saw someone's channel the other day that's got a live feed of their chicken coop, and they've got each one of the chickens is named, and as the chicken walks by, the name pops up, and then you can actually pay to feed the chickens treats.
That's
pretty cool.
awesome. That's
He's got
awesome.
like 30 or 40 people watching his stream day and night. It's crazy.
Wow.
Hey,
But
Brad,
I
there's
think
a-
it's
a
funny you talk
question.
about like the neighbors saying you're weird, but it's funny how the neighbors like, oh, you're the guy with all the cameras on the house, and like, yep, that's me. And then oh, you're the guy with the robot lawnmower, and I was like, yep, that's me. So,
Hey, Brad, there's a question here from Glenn around your satellites.
I
don't know
missed
if you've
it.
seen that. Oh, there we go. Can you see that?
I built 3 of Brad. It's not my Pi Zeros, by the way. That's all Mike from Nabukasa, by the way. But so you built the Wyoming satellites. The open wake word for Hey Jarvis fires on whole sentences randomly from speech off the TV. So a false positive from the television that happens. And what was the final question? I missed the very end of it.
Oh, that one? Or the
Yeah,
previous one?
the previous question. What was the answer? Or what was the question? Is this an open wake word issue? Yeah, so that is an issue still today. It's requires a voice assistant to separate a human voice like you and me from all the other noise that's going on in the room. And so it's not impossible to pull a voice out of the room and suppress the sound of pots and pans banging or music in the background. But if you have somebody on television whose dialogue is coming out of the speaker, it's quite difficult for the voice assistant to determine that that is not a real human being and that it's coming from the TV. And so, like, if Jennifer Aniston actually says the A word, to wake up the voice assistant, it will wake up. There's not a great solution to that. But if you're just asking about like separating human voice from all the noise in the background, there's beamforming, which is a technology that helps do that. So you need multiple microphones, and then the onboard computer will actually determine that like the north microphone you are closer to, and all the other noises it's picking up on all the 4 other microphones at the south and west and east to suppress that audio. And then it's able to separate your voice from the rest of the room. So that's beamforming. And that's one way that can help minimize those false positives that he was describing. What's interesting though is if you look at some of the main voice assistants that were built by the biggest companies in the world, they have 2 microphones on board, a lot of them. So you have to ask yourself, like, how are they doing that? How are they doing voice separation? And they're actually they have like a voice fingerprinting technology. It's the same technology that's used to determine that Brad is speaking as opposed to Brad's wife. And that problem they went out to solve because anyone can walk up to your voice assistant and say, unlock the door. That's terrifying, right? To unlock your door. So the big companies were like, we need a way to actually fingerprint someone's voice. And as soon as they built fingerprinting technology to determine who was speaking, they're like, we don't need anymore to, like, we don't have to wake up from Jennifer Aniston's voice anymore. We can pay attention to just one person's voice. So there, in terms of separating, and having these false positives happen that we all experience with our local voice assistants, you got to give it to the big tech companies. They're light years ahead. It's hard to get there.
Have you seen what they did with some of the commercials and stuff like that? They know ahead of the time, like Amazon, and they did that in audible tone to like let it know that, hey, this is about to be a commercial about this word. But then I remember, I think it was Burger King got in trouble with ordering stuff on people's speakers, and they had to like pull the commercial or something like that. It was several years ago.
I remember hearing about that technology. Yeah. I don't know if it's still out there though. Is it still being used?
I'm not sure. I've seen some stuff where they talked about they built like a fingerprint model where is like, say they had a particular commercial would trigger something, and then they would like now go build it and look for that exact type of audio and kind of like blacklist it in a way where it will stop triggering people's speakers.
Mm.
And then I see there's one more question here, Greg. Is it only 02Ws that can be used as a satellite?
Was that one for me?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's really any Raspberry Pi, any little Linux computer that happens to have a microphone on there and meet the requirements, like you could get it running on. So no, it doesn't have to be just the Pi 02W. It could be a lot of the Pis or little Linux machines with microphones on them. But so you guys know that you don't have a full Linux operating system at your disposal on an ESP32 device. Same with Nabu's hardware, like their voice hardware that they rolled out. It's a little ESP32 in there. So they are not running, thanks to ESP Home, they created the voice assistant component in ESP Home. And all of a sudden, you could create a voice assistant on ESP32s. So you have the Wyoming satellite that runs on all the Raspberry Pis, and then you have the voice assistant component that unlocked the ability to run voice assistants on the ESP32.
Awesome. Jerry is saying, Halloween is my favorite time for home automation. Always make a haunted garage with tons of sensors and devices. Yeah, I've seen some pretty cool. Was it Dr. Z's that did that Halloween video? Man, he did some awesome stuff there with his. Did you see that, Travis?
No, I didn't. There's another guy, Caleb. He's on my Discord. He does some crazy stuff with Halloween as well. And I'm like, I admired the time that people put towards all of the holiday stuff from Halloween to Christmas to whatever. I just know the time behind it. I'm just like, wow, it amazes me on some of the stuff they do. And it looks damn good as well.
Yeah, exactly. It seems everyone's talking about chickens now. Oh my goodness. What else have we got here? This is happening without the Jarvis word. The logs show whole sentences. I'm assuming this is directed at you again, Brad.
Oh, yes. It sounds like your device is constantly running a speech to text engine behind the scenes. It's just listening to the room at all times. I don't know how you've ended up with that happening, but sounds like something may have been misconfigured somewhere. If you want, you could ping us on the Future Proof Homes Discord, and maybe we could take a look and help you solve it. But yeah,
it is a common issue, even with even the Google speakers of like.
It's a hard problem to solve. It's very hard to solve.
Last night we were watching a movie, and I had one in the bathroom, and we listened to music or whatever, and I heard it go, I didn't understand what you said or something like that, and I was like, what? I was like, rewind it. What did it trigger off of? Wasn't even the wake word. So
Yeah, our robot
Yes.
vacuum does the same. So anything with the voice in it, it's like you said, it's really hard to solve that problem. So we've got too many probably, conversation agents in the home now who are thinking we're speaking with them, and maybe we don't intend to be.
yep.
Awesome, guys. We probably need to sort of start wrapping up. Brad, have you got anything else you wanted to mention before we finish off?
Again, I'll just say thank you. Thank you for having me on here. I will take the opportunity to call out some of my team members who've joined, as I always like to do. But there's Alex and Ben, Alex or Ben, he goes by both names, and he came on the Future Proof Homes team. He was one of the first guys I found from the Home Assistant forums. He's brilliant. And then we got another Ben who joined on as an electrical engineer, and then Misha, who's one of our software engineers. A great team is forming underneath Future Proof Homes to build awesome stuff. They all come from Home Assistant background, and if anyone out there is interested in helping and contributing on what we're doing, just hit me up. But pleasure being here and meeting all you guys. Thank you again, Simon.
Oh, fantastic. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, likewise. Just great to be here. I got to meet Travis and Trevor in person in Las Vegas at CES, which was really cool. So maybe next year, if we're all there, we can meet up. Yeah, just great to be here, and also to hear from the folks who are on the chat. So, yeah, great.
Awesome. Travis?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on everything on this. It's always cool to talk with the community, and just that's my favorite part of everything. And I probably spend too much time doing it, but like just interacting with people on like Reddit or my Discord and everything. It's funny to see like sometimes people, I'll be in some random Reddits, and they'll be like, oh, well, hey, oh, I didn't see you were responding to my stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm just a regular dude, and I just still go read and talk with stuff. So it's always awesome to like interact with the community and see what everybody's doing out there, because I don't have the time to do all that myself, and just to see what everybody's got going on with their homes. It's pretty neat.
So, Travis, are you full-time doing this now?
No, not at all. That would be I have a full-time job myself, so I just do this as a hobby, which actually I prefer it that way, because then I can just keep it fun and not have to rely on that revenue or anything. And it's pretty cool. That's some of the stuff I talked with like Trevor and Michael and stuff when we met, and I kind of prefer to keep it that way, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you totally. I think it gets a whole different story when you suddenly become dependent on a revenue stream. It just changes the whole thing. You're now driven by money, driven by getting free stuff or whatever it is. It's very different to just having fun, getting out there, and just enjoying the community, as you were saying. That's what does it for me as well, is chatting to the people in the community, man. It's it's people like Johnny. Every single live stream I come on, there he is. You know what I mean? It's just fantastic to know that you've got community members that are so excited about being involved. It's it's fantastic. What about you, Trevor?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, just to go about you talking about it being for fun type thing, is I think once you cross that line, I'm not talking about the companies, y'all are doing a little differently. I'm just speaking as a content creator.
Yeah.
As I see too many times the issue with paid reviews, and I've seen so many contracts that say, oh, we'll pay you X, and it has to be, we have to send you, you have to let us do 10 edits or something like that, or they want a positive review, or they're creative in the way they got to say positive review, but they all, which I understand, they're going to pay X amount of dollars. And it's funny to see that, like, I'll review a product and then see another channel, I'm not calling out any channels at all, and then their review is totally different. And also you'll find that other company is paying for promotion on there to push theirs to the top, which is another issue. So be mindful of the reviews out there on YouTube is all I'm saying. So go ahead. I'm done.
Well, one thing I recommend to people is, if you're looking at a product, don't just look at YouTube for reviews. Go on Google and actually check the normal internet for reviews as well. Yeah. I've often found you get some much more genuine reviews by going onto Google and just doing a really good search there. And a lot of dirt comes up sometimes that, YouTube stuff is just showing all good stuff. So yeah, I'm with you totally. But no, I agree with you. I have a full-time job and I totally just enjoy doing what I do. Trevor, what about you, mate? Do you want to say anything more?
Yeah, I mean, I'll sound like a broken record. Same thing. The community is pretty incredible. That we all share this passion for home automation, and hardware and stuff like that. And it's such an international community, which is pretty cool from being from the Midwest. You, Simon, around the world. We've got friends that we talk to all the time, partners in every region. Jerry that we met out at CES over in the Netherlands. Like, it's incredible how international it is. And we all kind of share this passion for it, and it's really cool. They've been very supportive to us and helping us, with products and things like that, and we look to continue to grow.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. No, have I missed anyone out? Saying last words? I don't want to. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much, and I've really enjoyed today. It's been a lot easier for me not having to do all the talking. It's been absolutely fantastic having all of you guys on board. And the audience as well. Big shout out to everyone that's come on board today and contributed to the stream. That's what makes it, guys. The audience is why we're here. Personally, for me, the reason that I do it is I love helping people. And, a lot of the guys on the team here today are pretty technical developers or something in some way. But I sort of come from a different aspect. I'm absolutely non-tech related. I work in the construction industry. And what I really enjoy is being able to come from a total non-technical person's side of things, try and work out how to do stuff, how to use a product, and then somehow get that across in a way where other people that are non-technical can actually take a product like Home Assistant, which, as we've all discussed, if you're going to flash it on Raspberry Pi, you've got to get a little bit technical. Yes, you've got the Green and you've got the Odroid from Apollo now. So these pre-set up devices are made, but I still think there's a real bridge needed between non-technical people understanding Home Assistant and being able to use it to their advantage. Because I think we've all seen the issues with the big tech companies and the big voice assistant companies where we just don't know what's happening with the data that's going up into the cloud there. So yeah, I really take my hat off to guys like, Apollo and Futureproof are actually going out there making open source products that, they're not selling out, they're actually making something that is locally controlled and is able to allow us as users to know that we're not going to in 2 years suddenly have the product is bricked and we can't use it. So yeah, big thanks to everyone that's come on board today, everyone that has contributed to the stream, and yeah, I hope we can do something like this again.
Thank you.
Likewise, it was great. A lot of fun.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
Cheers then. All right, I think we've quit the stream.
Great stream, Simon. What